Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The evening was warm, the faint hum of the ceiling fan cutting through the silence of our bedroom. I leaned closer, teasing him with a mischievous smile, and pressed my hand against his shoulder as if to push him back playfully. But before I could even take a step away, his hand shot forward, swift, deliberate. He caught both of my wrists at once, holding me with surprising strength. My breath hitched. The suddenness of his touch sent a shiver down my arms, a current of heat rushing straight to my chest. I looked up, caught in the glow of his eyes, and saw that crooked smile spreading across his lips, half amusement, half something darker, something that dared me to resist. "Is that all you've got?" he murmured, his voice low and edged with challenge. I laughed softly, though my heart was racing far too fast for such a casual sound. I tried to pull back, just to prove I still had some control, but his grip only tightened, not painfully, but firmly enough that I felt the weight of him, the deliberate choice in his hold. My skin tingled beneath his touch, and every inch of space between us suddenly felt heavy, charged, as though the air itself was alive with unspoken tension. He leaned closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath against my cheek, the faint trace of cologne clinging to him, woody, sharp, and intoxicating. My playful push had turned into something else entirely, a moment where silence spoke louder than words, where every beat of my heart pounded a question I wasn't sure I was ready to answer. And then he smiled again, wickedly, knowingly. I could see it in his eyes. This was no longer a game I could control. He was about to turn my playful defiance into something else, something I hadn't quite expected. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, to laugh, to break the spell, he moved. Swift, assured, and closer than I'd ever let him before. The question wasn't whether I'd resist. The question was, what would happen next? The silence after that charged moment lingered longer than it should have. He released my wrists eventually, but the imprint of his touch stayed, an invisible warmth that refused to fade. I turned away, pretending to adjust the blanket at the edge of the bed, though inside I was still trembling. Not with fear, but with the quiet ache of something I hadn't admitted to myself in months. We weren't always this way. Once, our love was simple: candlelit dinners, long drives, stolen kisses that made the world blur away. But somewhere between bills, schedules, and the unspoken rules of routine, that raw spark dimmed. Conversations turned practical, his late nights at work piled up, and I began to wonder if he noticed the way I reached for him less, or the way my laughter carried more loneliness than joy. And yet, moments like tonight reminded me, the fire wasn't gone, just buried. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching me, silent but not detached. His gaze held something unspoken, something deeper than teasing. I caught it for just a second before he looked away, pretending to scroll through his phone. That was his habit, hiding his vulnerability behind screens and silence. But I knew him too well. He wanted closeness as much as I did, though pride often pulled us apart. There were cracks between us, his unspoken frustrations, my quiet resentments. Times I wished he'd listen more, or the times I knew he wished I'd soften instead of guard myself. But beneath it all was still the truth neither of us could deny. When we collided, like tonight, the intensity was overwhelming. I walked toward him, slowly, deliberately. He didn't look up, but I could tell from the way his shoulders shifted that he knew. My hand brushed his, just lightly. A touch so small it could be dismissed as accidental, but not by us. He finally lifted his eyes. That familiar wicked curve of his smile returned, though this time softer, almost vulnerable. My chest tightened. There was so much we hadn't said, and maybe that's why the silence between us always felt so heavy. Because beneath the teasing and the playful battles, there were layers of longing neither of us dared to unravel too quickly. I wanted to tell him everything, that I missed him, that I wanted more than routine, that I craved the man who once made my heart race with nothing more than a glance. But words seemed too fragile, too dangerous. Instead, I leaned just close enough that our breaths mingled, my heartbeat hammering like a secret begging to be discovered. And in that fragile closeness, I realized, tonight might be the night something finally breaks open. But whether it would heal us, or expose the cracks further, was still unknown. The room was quiet, yet my thoughts were anything but. His touch still lingered on my wrists, but what unsettled me more was the look I caught in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching. Possessive. Hungry. As though my teasing had stirred something he had kept caged for too long. I turned, pacing near the window, letting the curtains brush against my arm. The night air was cool, but it did nothing to ease the heat pulsing beneath my skin. I felt his gaze follow me, heavy, almost daring me to meet it. You enjoy driving me mad, don't you? His voice broke the silence, low and steady. I froze, my pulse quickening. It wasn't anger I heard, but something sharper, jealousy. The kind that wasn't loud, but simmered under the surface. He had seen me laugh too freely with others before, I realized. Maybe he remembered how I'd brushed off his touch at a family gathering, or how I'd let my attention wander when he needed it most. My lips parted, but words failed. Instead, I turned slowly, my eyes locking with his. That wicked half-smile was gone, in its place was a raw intensity, almost dangerous in how much it revealed. I could have denied it. Could have laughed off his accusation and lightened the moment. But part of me, an unspoken, restless part, wanted him to feel that edge. To know he wasn't the only one holding back desires. Maybe I do, I whispered, though my voice trembled. His jaw tightened, his phone slipping from his hand to the bed as if nothing else mattered. He stood, crossing the space between us in 2 deliberate steps. The air thickened, every second stretching like a thread ready to snap. I should have stepped back. I didn't. The closeness was overwhelming, his warmth, his scent, the sharp ache of unspoken jealousy mingling with the longing we had both buried for too long. My heart raced so violently I thought he might hear it. For a moment, it felt like standing at the edge of something dangerous. Something forbidden, even though he was my husband. Because what we were about to step into wasn't routine love, it was a storm waiting to break. And I wasn't sure if either of us was ready for the aftermath. The house was too quiet. Every tick of the clock seemed louder than usual, every shift of the air heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. He stood so close that I could feel the warmth radiating from him, the charged silence between us stretching thinner with every second. We hadn't planned for this moment. Maybe that's why it felt so dangerous. There was no distraction, no phone call, no visitor to break the tension. Just him and me, 2 people circling around the storm we had both tried to ignore for too long. He leaned one hand against the wall beside me, not touching, but close enough that the space between us burned. My pulse hammered in my throat as his eyes locked with mine, no longer playful, no longer uncertain, but steady, dark, and unwavering. You keep pushing me away, he said softly, almost a whisper, but his voice carried weight. But when I step back, you pull me back in. Which one is it? The words hit me hard. Because he was right. I had played this push and pull game, not knowing how much it had built inside him. Not knowing how much it had built inside me. My breath caught as I opened my mouth, but no words came. Instead, my hand brushed against his chest, light at first, as if testing whether the moment was real. His heart was racing, fast, hard, mirroring mine. That simple discovery made my knees weak. The world outside the room faded. All I could hear was his breathing, the rise and fall of his chest, the charged silence thickening until it was unbearable. His hand slid slowly down the wall, hovering inches from my hip, deliberate but restrained. He wasn't just testing me, he was testing himself. I should have moved. Should have said something. But I didn't. Because the truth was, I wanted this closeness just as much as he did. The moment stretched, unbearable, trembling on the edge of something we could no longer hold back. And then, he leaned in, closer than ever before, his lips a breath away from mine. And stopped. The world narrowed to the inches between us. His breath brushed against my lips, and I could almost taste the promise of what was about to happen. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might betray me, every beat screaming that I wanted this, that I needed this. But then, his voice broke the silence. Low. Confessional. I know you've been hiding something. I froze. His eyes weren't just burning with desire anymore, they carried suspicion, pain, something deeper than jealousy. The weight of his words pinned me harder than his hand against the wall ever could. What do you mean? My voice cracked, betraying the storm inside me. He leaned closer, his gaze searching me like he was peeling away every layer I'd built. I've seen the way you look at him. The name wasn't spoken, but I didn't need him to say it. The image of that forbidden moment, when I laughed too freely with someone else, when my eyes lingered too long, flashed in my mind. I hadn't thought he noticed. But of course he did. He always noticed. My chest tightened, shame and defiance colliding inside me. I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but his eyes wouldn't let me. And for the first time, I realized maybe part of me wanted him to know. His grip tightened on the wall, jaw flexing. Is that what you want? Someone else? The question cut deep. I wanted to scream no. But the truth was tangled, messy. What I craved wasn't another man, it was this. The intensity. The fire. The version of him that held me like I was the only thing that mattered. I want you, I whispered, voice trembling with both fear and desire. But not the man who forgets me. I want the man who's standing in front of me right now. His eyes widened, flickering with shock, then something darker, something raw. For a moment, I thought he might pull away. But instead, his hand left the wall and captured my chin, tilting my face to his. His touch was demanding, almost desperate, as though he was terrified of losing me. And then, just as our lips were about to collide, a sharp sound shattered the moment. A phone buzzed on the bed. His phone. He glanced back, and the name flashing across the screen made his entire body tense. It wasn't work. It wasn't a friend. It was a woman's name. My breath caught. The storm inside me twisted violently, flipping the betrayal onto him. My heart pounded, but this time with fury, confusion, and an ache I wasn't ready to face. The truth was no longer about me. It was about him. And the real question now wasn't what I'd been hiding. It was what he had. The phone kept buzzing, the glow of the screen like a cruel spotlight on the crack that had just split the room in two. I stared at the name flashing across it, my throat tightening as if I'd been caught in a net. For a moment, neither of us moved. The silence was deafening. Finally, I stepped back, breaking free from his hold. My voice shook but carried fire. Who is she? His jaw clenched, eyes flicking between me and the phone. He didn't answer fast enough, and the hesitation was worse than words. My chest burned, my heart racing with betrayal and disbelief. You accuse me, I spat, but all this time, was it you? The phone buzzed again, and this time he grabbed it, flipping it face down on the bed as though hiding the evidence could erase what I'd seen. His hands raked through his hair, frustration pouring out of him. It's not what you think, the old excuse. The one that never convinced anyone. My laugh was bitter, my voice breaking with equal parts pain and anger. Then tell me what it is. For a moment, he faltered. And then his shoulders slumped, the fight bleeding out of him. She's no one, he said, softer, almost defeated. A mistake I never should have let happen. My breath caught. The words sliced through me, brutal in their honesty. I wanted to scream, to cry, to walk out and slam the door behind me. But instead, tears blurred my vision, and I whispered, "Why wasn't I enough?" He froze. His face twisted in anguish, and for the first time, I saw him break. "You are enough. You've always been enough." I was the one who forgot. I let myself drift. "I thought I'd lost you already." The rawness in his voice shook me, but it didn't erase the betrayal. My heart ached, torn between fury and the pull I still felt toward him. The pull that refused to die, no matter how much I wanted it to. We stood there, two broken people bound by love, mistakes, and a dangerous kind of longing. My tears fell freely now, and he reached for me. For a second, I almost stepped back. But something inside me, wounded yet desperate, let him hold me instead. His arms wrapped around me, trembling, not with control but with fear. Fear of losing me for good. My cheek pressed against his chest, and I could hear the rapid, uneven pounding of his heart. We were still fractured, scarred by choices that couldn't be undone. But in that embrace, I felt the faintest spark of what had once bound us, fragile but alive. Maybe this was the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something we'd have to rebuild from ruins. Either way, the story wasn't finished. Not yet. The night felt endless, heavy with everything that had been said and everything that still lingered unspoken. Yet in the middle of that storm, there we were, holding on to each other as if letting go would mean losing everything forever. His grip wasn't forceful anymore, it was fragile, trembling, desperate. And for the first time in what felt like months, I didn't fight it. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion and regret. "I don't deserve you," he whispered, voice breaking. "But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be the man you need." The honesty in his words cut through my anger. It didn't erase the pain, but it gave me something I thought I'd lost: hope. My tears slowed as I searched his face, and what I saw there wasn't the man who had betrayed me, but the man who was fighting not to lose me. I cupped his cheek, my thumb brushing against the faint stubble along his jaw. "Then start now," I whispered. "Start here." His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, he leaned down, hesitating just long enough for me to close the distance. Our lips met, not in fury or desperation this time, but in something far deeper, an aching tenderness that poured all the unsaid apologies and unspoken promises into a single kiss. The world around us melted away. There was no phone, no shadows of betrayal, no ghosts of unspoken doubts. Just us, two broken souls trying to mend, choosing each other in spite of everything. When we finally pulled apart, I rested my forehead against his, my hands still cradling his face. "We're not perfect," I murmured. "But maybe that's what makes us real." A soft laugh escaped him, filled with relief and something close to joy. "Then real is all I want." He wrapped me in his arms again, but this time it wasn't desperate, it was steady, warm, the kind of embrace that promised tomorrow. For the first time in a long time, I believed him. I believed us. Outside, the night carried on, but within those walls, a new chapter began. One born not of perfection, but of forgiveness, resilience, and the kind of love that survives the storm. And as I closed my eyes in his arms, I realized, this was not just survival. This was love, messy, fragile, and worth every fight.